These are some of the faux pas that visitors to London often make when they first come here. Don't worry if you make them, it's really not a big deal, it's totally fine, but it's always good to be informed, right? If you're new here, hi, I'm Jess and I make videos for people who are coming to visit London. Standing on the left side of the escalator. If you get on an escalator in London, you will see that the people who want to stand and not walk down the escalator stand on the right side of it. And if they're on the left, then they're always walking down. You'll see in the underground there are loads of signs around that say, please stand on the right. And you will also notice if you stand on the left accidentally that you'll have some grumpy Londoners behind you being like, excuse me, can you move out of the way? You get some like passive aggressive energy thrown your way because Londoners hate when you block the left side of the escalator. So just make sure you stand to the right if you're not gonna walk down. Cutting a line or cutting a queue as they call it here. In London, we're pretty well known for being good at a good orderly, calm queue system or a line as we call it back in the US. I accidentally jumped the queue once at a grocery store. I didn't realize it was a mistake and my friends couldn't stop laughing afterward because they couldn't believe like the looks on everybody's faces when I accidentally cut in front of them. It was like, God, you would think I'd just like slapped a kid in front of them or something. So when you're in London, just be sure to stay in line, respect the queue, and the queue will respect you. It keeps everything nice in order and very calm. It always amazes me here how there could be like hundreds of people queuing up to go into the underground, like so many people at rush hour, and it's pure madness. And I always think to myself, if this was in New York, like punches would be flying, people would be yelling, there would be so much happening, but in London, everyone's just quietly, patiently waiting until they're allowed to go through the barriers down to their train. Not putting your fork and knife together when you've finished your meal. When you are eating at a restaurant, a server is not gonna come over and take your plate away from you until you've put your fork and your knife next to each other, together, and in the middle of the plate, even if the plate is clean. I still forget to do this sometimes and I'm like, why is nobody coming to take our plates away? And it's because I haven't put my fork and knife together to tell them that I'm finished and I want them to take it away. Not letting passengers get off the tube before you get on. Now, this is a pretty common thing if you've ever taken public transportation before. You always want to make sure you let the people off the train before you get on. But if you've never taken public transportation, you might not know that that's a thing, and that's okay. So just make sure that you let everybody off the train before you start to get onto it. And to do that, make sure you stand to the side of the doors so that you leave a pathway for people to get off easily. Not moving down the tube car. When it starts to get crowded on the tube, especially at rush hour, you might hear the station announcer or the person driving the train get on the microphone and say, please make sure you move down the car. What that means is to make sure you move towards the center of the car, away from where the doors are. That way it doesn't clog up the doors, which means that less people can get on the train. The more that people get into the middle of the car, the more people that can get on the train. Leaning against the pole on the tube. It's a lot of transportation things in here, I know, it's a lot, but that's what I could think of really the most like faux pas happening. You know how like when you're on a train and there's the poles that you can hold on to if you're standing up? If you lean on one of those poles, it's pretty rude because it means nobody else can hold on to the pole, or if they have their hand on it, you might like crush their hand. So just make sure you stand and just hold on with your hand. Talking really loudly. Now, this is definitely an American thing that I'm totally guilty of sometimes, but there are some other cultures that are similar as well, especially when we've all had a little bit to drink. By nature, Londoners and the British are a little bit more soft-spoken and quieter than Americans and some other cultures. So be conscious of your level of talking, especially if you're in a restaurant or a cafe or someplace where people are like trying to have their own conversations or like enjoy their dinner or something. If you're talking really loudly, your voice is gonna project and it's gonna be kind of annoying to everyone else around you. So in practice, try to turn the volume tab down a little. Tipping the bartender. There's no need to tip the bartender here, even if you order food. So I know especially Americans, we're so used to tipping the bartender at the bar. There's no tip needed, even if you get food from them and they bring it out to your table. If you do get drinks brought to a table or someone like comes to take your drink order, then that's a different story. You probably want to give like around 10% if the service was good, or there might be a service charge added already. Not knowing when to end a conversation. I never would say that Londoners are rude people. However, by nature, the Brits, but also most people that live in London, aren't into like striking up a conversation with a random person very often. People just keep to themselves more, especially if they've had like a long day of work. They kind of just don't really wanna, they just wanna like put their headphones in and not really talk to anybody. So especially for people who come from cultures where it's really common to just like talk to anybody on the train or at a restaurant or wherever you end up being, just be conscious of when that person's giving you signals that you want to end, that they want to end the conversation. It's something that I have noticed that Americans do a lot, but it's not just Americans, I'm sure. For example, if you have a server at a restaurant, they're trying to do their job. So if like you have a couple, doesn't mean that like nobody wants to ever have a conversation with you, but just keep an eye on the cues. If you have a couple back and forths and then the server's like turning their body away from you because they need to go and serve other tables, just end the conversation, and if they want to pick it back up, then they will when they come back. Same thing, like I just think of when I go to a cafe, and sometimes I just want to like have a cup of tea and like have a moment to myself and kind of take a breath. And if someone sat next to me, I'm like happy to have a conversation and say hello if they want to. But if the conversation is going to go on for 10 minutes and I'm trying to work, or I'm just trying to like relax for a second, then it's just kind of annoying. So I do want to say though, if any of you ever see me at a cafe, please come over and say hello. That is not like for you guys. I insist actually, if you ever see me in London, to please make sure you stop and you say hello. Like it's one of my favorite things when I get to meet you guys. So just be conscious of when people, like their body language, if they turn their shoulders away from you, they probably don't want to talk anymore. If they are only answering your questions with one word and not like asking questions about you, back to you, then they probably need to end the conversation for some reason. Again, you don't have to worry if you make any of these faux pas. It's totally fine. You'll never see probably any of these people in London ever again, and also it can make for a funny story anyway. But if you need more tips for your visit to London, make sure that you check out one of the videos that's popping up over here. I have lots and lots and lots of tips for people who are coming to visit just like you. So I will see you in the next video.